Okay, everybody. This is our. Can you see me over there? All right. This is our after lunch session. It is styled as a therapy session at the request of Sara Miro, because she has some stuff she has to get off her chest. And I know, because as I saw Sara speaking with others, I realized that I've seen people sort of grabbing their hair and looking frustrated as she's explaining the topics, and they're like, me too. So what we really want out of this is for you also to share. So please, I think I'm going to do my best, but
that's all we can ask of you, Joshua, is your best.
I'm going to do my best to see you waving your hands and going, me too. Let me just get this out into the open, all right? So, Sara, this is a relationship therapy session. And I want to know, what is it? Tell me. Okay, can somebody take Sara here and put her in the back of the room, because she's distracting?
No, we like this.
This is so bad. All right.
It's a heckler. We need a heckler.
This is so going to be the shit show session for the conference.
If you take a tally of who curses more up here, right? Let's see who wins the prize at the end. But that's exactly what this is, right? Help me help you, relationship therapy session. I need a lot of therapy, but I need a lot of therapy because for years I've been dealing with vendors and their shenanigans, and I think it's high time that we all discuss it. Joshua, like a good therapist, is going to let me tell my story and complaints. But I really, I'm going to rely on Joshua to give me some good advice, because it may just be me. It's possible, right? But if Joshua's going, a little bit off of what you feel, please, this is an interactive session. We want to hear. And I don't know, do we have any vendors in the room? Oh, very good. Listen up and take notes, please. So, and I'll start, and I'll just say, I guess a lot of people, you're probably familiar with the innovation life cycle, right? Scoping, business requirements, piloting, implementation, adoption. So what I want to talk about is the phases of the innovation relationship life cycle in the frame of dating, love, marriage. So let's start with what I like to call courtship. Okay, this has happened to me quite often. I'll get calls, emails, dinner invitations, drinks invitations, cornered at conferences, more calls, more emails. Finally, I say, okay, it's enough. I've had one too many glasses of wine, and I agree. I'm going to set up a 35-minute call for the vendor to come, give a demo, the coveted demo. And maybe we have a little discussion beforehand. Maybe I invite my CTO. Maybe I invite some partners. And the day finally comes, and the vendor joins, and it's quite apparent from the first few minutes of the demo that they have not done their homework. They have not customized the demo to our law firm. They have not done the research on the people that are attending the call. Has anyone else? Is it just me?
Is it possible that everything they know about the practice of law involves television terms?
It's possible. But I think there's such a missed opportunity. Like you wanted this meeting so badly. We have it set up for you. I mean, you really have to do a little bit of legwork, right? It doesn't take that much to realize, like, a law firm is not just a law firm, right? There are different tiers, there are different practice areas, there are different focuses that a lot of the partners care about. And so to do a little bit of extra homework would really serve you very, very well. The first thing, right? Secondly, again, I said 35 minutes. If I'm feeling generous, maybe 45 minutes. The chances of a partner staying on for longer than 45 minutes is highly unlikely. So this has happened to me a bunch. The first, 10, 15 minutes, the vendor will ask, what are your pain points? What are you working on right now? Who makes the decisions on tech? Dude, you called me. You're not interviewing me. You assume we have no pain points. Assume we have no issues. Get to the demo. Time is precious. Show us what you have. Like, we're not here to tell you what we need. Anybody else? I mean, I don't know. It's a red flag to me if you are asking.
Or if you
Oh.
So one of the expectations.
Okay, hold on.
One of the expectations that if I'm bringing chiefs onto the call is that like I've prepped the vendors.
Of course.
So I usually put together. We were working on a visual display product. So I put together, here are all of our brand colors. Here are the codes for our colors. Here is a summary of our pain points. Here's a summary of the characteristics that this product that we're working on typically has. Here is, elements of it. These are who it is. I included the links to everyone who is going to be on the call. And it still started how you talked about, to the point where I got a little IM during the call from one of our CMOs going, didn't you brief these people, Rachel? This is ridiculous. And in return, I forwarded her the email that I sent to them, and I was like, yes, and all the other ones. We'll see hopefully they'll go better.
Help me help you. Really, help me to help you.
I turned one off once.
Oh.
Like 2 minutes in.
I know you're loud.
I am loud.
I gave them a very similar set of things, a list of this is exactly what we want to hear. 10 minutes later, I said, you're showing me a PowerPoint. We're not inside your product. Can you move to the things I asked you to talk about? And they blinked at me. And I said, come back when you can. They've not been back.
It's part of your responsibility as a vendor. We're vouching for you, right? I mean, we have reputations within our firms and like I said, time is precious, right? So if we deem that your tool is worth half an hour of, whether it's chief, whether it's partner, whether it's just the KM team's time, it really should be customized. It should be tailored, and you should do your homework. And there's no shame in, you called us 1,000,000 times and emailed us nonstop. You could email us before the demo and say, hey, who's attending? Anything that you want us to focus on? I mean, that would help both of us.
Sarah, you're just not doing it right. I mean, we're all about gamification. Naveen and I like to play a game where we time how long it is before we actually see software. And we keep track. And sometimes there's
awesome.
5 minutes left for software after a very long PowerPoint presentation. But it does make the time go by a little bit faster when you're just watching that clock. Like, come on, number 7.
We had a demo the other day. We didn't see a product. There was no product. They kept telling us one more thing, and then we're going to show you the product. The partner wrote to me and said, I think we're being punked. And this is a true story. I have someone in here who could vouch for that. That's really absurd, right?
I was going to say what Rachel puts together sounds amazing, and I'm not doing that. That's not going to be the standard. That's incredible. But I do want to say that the amount of times I've had people reach out to me for litigation products when we don't litigate at Gunderson is very frustrating, because it's very clear that that's not work we do. And so at just a basic level, knowing that we don't need those tools would be helpful and appreciated.
I actually put my iPad down because I don't need any notes for this. You guys are good.
I'm scared as a vendor to actually ask that. I think
I like that. Someone has to defend your honor, please.
No, I mean, I just...
Tell us who you are.
So my name's Daniel. I'm from a company called Legadix. I think, Sarah, to your point about the 35 minutes and the types of questions that you ask, I think the reason for that is I put pressure on my teams when they do get that coveted demo to actually be able to come back, not just with having delivered all of that, but actually say, who are the decision makers, what's the budget process, what is all this stuff happening? And sometimes you literally only have that 35-minute slot. You don't necessarily get the time in advance to qualify through some of these points. So my question to you would be, is there the opportunity, if you do give that 35-minute slot, if they said, look, could we just have 5-10 minutes separately to do some of that qualification, to do that discovery in advance? Because sometimes you're not given the time for both. So the vendors end up having to do that.
So I have a 2-part answer, and maybe others disagree. So I think, yes, of course, we'll always, if you want a 10-minute side conversation, for sure. But I think the question of budget and timing and who makes the decisions, it's none of your business, right? I mean, it really isn't. My partner does not want to be, or whoever makes the decisions does not want to be bothered by a sales rep, right? And, in fact, I have... and it's going to be a little bit later, but I'll talk about it now. It could really, really backfire to go directly to a partner like that. And maybe we'll talk about that now.
So so I'll weigh in on this. I told Sarah,
Yes.
every once in a while I give a perspective, having worked with lots of vendors. So, when I was with Fireman and Company, we partnered with many vendors. We ran a whole lot of evaluations, went through a lot of these processes. And it is, so just so everyone in the audience knows, there's likely not a sales organization in legal software that doesn't have to fill out a form in Salesforce that actually gives this damn information. And it's a pain. And I think it's important to acknowledge, because doing it in the demo is a pain in the ass. And also starting the demo with the 15-minute who we are, when we know who you are, because that's why you're here. Like, we're not, I almost used a bad word. But they still need, yes, Tanisha's like, use your bad word. No,
Tanisha, I've gotten
but-
emails addressed to Tanisha, actually. Simpson, Sullivan, I've got, right? And she's, I mean,
So
We have a good laugh about
somewhere,
those.
somewhere in that relationship, I think there does have to be the acknowledgement that there's real pain in the ass sales stuff that they're actually being judged on in their jobs. Like, they've got to get it, because when they go back and they say, I don't know when their budget cycle is. I don't know if they're a year to year or an April 1 to April 1. Like, that's actually, so, I'm just saying, because they're not totally evil, although Sarah
send
thinks
these
so.
notes to your boss.
It's not that you're evil. All right, here's the deal. If you want me to care about that, I will. I care about people once we have a relationship.
Yes.
Once I
Hear,
like
hear.
you, once you matter to me. And then when that's been in place and someone says to me, is there any way you can squeak this in before Q3? Then I'm like, for you, yes, because you and I, we like each other. You matter.
I trust
right?
you.
I trust you. You've been of value to me. When somebody asks me that before building that, it pisses me off, like, truly. And I don't even like to be as angry as it makes me
Well, because
feel.
you know why they're really asking at that
I
stage,
don't know
right?
why.
Well, I'll tell you why, right?
Well,
Because now, okay, you're dating, you've had a few demos, you've met up a few times. You're getting mixed signals, though. The vendors are getting mixed signals. We don't answer their calls, we don't respond to their emails. What's going on? I mean, we could have other priorities, we could have other work to do, but maybe that's unlikely, right? We could be playing the field. We probably are a little bit.
We're on some other
But,
dates.
Then the vendors too, like, you have this great, brilliant idea. I know. Let's email, fill in the blank partner name that I pull from the website. No. And not alert the KM&I team to it. No. Because, it's going to be amazing. They're going to scoot us right out. Like, the biggest mistake that you could do. So, where's Lily? Oh, you're going to be embarrassed by this. So, we have, and a lot of people here know, we have a small KM&I team. Our KM&I team has combined 42 years of experience at Sullivan and Cromwell, 27 years in KM&I. We look good, Lily. We look good. Right. Are you seriously going around us? Do you think that that's going to fly? Like, even if you have the call, even if you have another demo with a group that doesn't know anything about the industry, is not the one that's going to make the decision on the contract, the chances of that really working, I mean, I could tell you an awesome story. Please. I will. So, contract renegotiation. Weeks, we're going back and forth. And we told the vendor from the start, like, we'll just throw out some numbers, right? Don't give me an opening number above 10%. Like, I can't bring that anywhere. We're just wasting time. What was the opening number? Above 10%. So we were going back and forth for weeks, and we're negotiating, and we're getting things down. And I knew I could probably get them near, 7% or after some negotiation, right? But they decided it was taking long, and they probably had pressure. So they went up the line to whoever their manager was, and the manager thought, who signed the contract the last time? I'll email that partner and tell them we're such a trusted provider. You're a trusted partner. We really want to make this work. We've been renegotiating, and we've been doing. Do you know that partner wrote the best email back that basically just said, you got to be effing kidding me to think that you're a trusted provider. You're going around the team that you've been negotiating with for all this time. You're trying to jack up the price and no additional value to us. What are you thinking? Like, if I could cancel you right now, I would. Backfire. Guess what? I could have probably gotten the vendor 7%. They settled on 5%. And the other thing is, did you ever try to cut the line at a hot club when you were young? Like, what happens when you get caught? Back of the line, you're going to be waiting an hour to get in. I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm saying it, but believe me, it happens. At least for us, and I'm sure for others too. So it's just notes to take back. And I appreciate that you guys are under a lot of pressure, right? But we are too, right? I mean, this is what we do day in and day out. So
I'm going to preface this by saying I completely agree with the trust part, right? Like, in any good relationship, it needs to be built on trust. I'm also going to say that I was a vendor and I have moved to law firms, but I've also I've done the whole gamut, basically, attorney, vendor, and now I'm in a law firm as K&I. So I will say that, and this is more advice to the vendors, I think one of the biggest issues, and I say this having been a person that was in sales at a vendor and having been trained on the vendor side, I think there is just a one track for salespeople on how you get trained to be a salesperson, and I think that's why we're all feeling this friction from, doesn't matter what vendor you are talking to, but we're all feeling this friction because honestly, the sales cycle looks the same for everybody. And so they all get told, do this discovery. And discovery is this big area that you have to do. And yes, I understand why, right? Essentially, they want to make the sale. But to the point that everyone else is making, if we don't trust you, why would we vouch for you? And I think you need to see the people in the firm that you're talking to as your champions in that firm. And they can't help you if you're not trying to help them first.
yeah.
So I think that where it needs to change is on the sales side. I think there needs to be a new way of being trained as a salesperson going forward.
Love that. So, and I will say, I appreciate, look, if you get your VCs, I know the partner that leads this group, or, I have my brother's best friend's sister works, right? I can connect you. I appreciate that. There's no reason that you couldn't reach out to the KM&I team and say, hey, heads up, I'm going to be connected to X, Y, and Z. Or you copy us, right? I mean, we ultimately, I serve my partners this is their law firm, right? They decide what comes in, what comes out. So, going around us, really, you're shooting yourself in the foot at the end of the day because that trust factor is gone.
So the term salesperson, I think that might be an issue, right? So we're not at the front of the supermarket line. We're oh, maybe I'll get this pack of Mentos, right? You're not going to convince us to buy anything that we don't need or that we don't have a need for, right? And it's a lot of money. So I think some of the best people, I don't know if is Anand here, used to be a case text. I saw him earlier at he used to come in and he just show us the product, show us how it works. Oh, does it do this? Nope, doesn't do that. Okay. Didn't try to tell us he'd make it for us. Didn't say, he's no, we thought of that and we decided not to do that because of this reason. It's okay, great. So I think just being straightforward, being honest, and being a partner and just showing us the tools is really what we need. We don't need to be convinced.
So that's a good segue, actually. So let's say now, right, you've wooed us. We're in love. We love it. We want that proposal. You are going to give us that proposal. But we want some promises in return, right? The tool doesn't work exactly the way we need it for certain groups. Some partners have requested certain features be added. You need to do some integration to comply with the way our security system works. So what do we hear? What do we hear, Josh? What do we hear? It's on the roadmap. It's coming next quarter. We promise. Do you know what I want? I want a prenup. I want a prenup. And, we won't call it a prenup, but I think we'll call it a statement of work.
Yeah.
A separate agreement that says, okay, we're going to sign, we're going to do all the things, but you need, within this amount of time, and we'll pay for it, maybe, but this amount of time, we need these things done and complete. I think that's stellar. And
So
we've
that-
done
that-
that before,
so-
and it's been very, very successful.
Yeah, I told Sarah I was going to weigh in on this one. How many times have you said to a vendor, I need this, I need it to do X, and then it doesn't get delivered? Everybody gets disappointed, right? But there is a problem, and when we talked about this, it's something that I realized that maybe not everybody knows on the vendor sales accounting side, and I think in a relationship it's important to understand some of this stuff. So when a software vendor sells you a product or a subscription to their product, they want to be able to book that revenue. So when they're pushing you for Q2, Q3, Q4,
End
right?
of the year. Got to sign before the end of the year.
Exactly.
I'll give you a sweetheart deal if you sign by the end of the year.
And there are a whole bunch of good reasons for that. And the reason is because they want in the current subscription model, you are annual recurring revenue. Okay, you are ARR. Understand? I know you're a client, but from a pure fiscal standpoint, your annual recurring revenue. Annual recurring revenue receives a much higher valuation multiple than your software sales used to receive. That is why, aside from the fact that the cloud is awesome and efficient, blah, 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 it's also made people much richer, right? Because you'll get 10x instead of 3x when you I was going to say flip. What? Not flip. Sell, cash out, whatever you want. But here's the problem. If in that contract it says we promise to deliver this, and what the firms will say is, and we want the ability to exit that contract in 6 months if you haven't delivered this, they cannot book that revenue. So you'll sign it, and you think, well, and there's a condition, I'm holding their feet to the fire, but they're actually disincented from that because they need to book the revenue. And this, I think, is also where it comes down to trust and due diligence on both sides, because there are certainly vendors who will promise you the moon, right, to be able to book that sale. But I think that when you're in those negotiations and you're having those communications with people, oftentimes that falls to your procurement side. So those firms have big procurement departments who are the bane of everyone's existence. I'm sorry, okay? They don't care about this stuff, right? And they're just going to say, no, we are going to shave this thing down to the bone, and then the vendor can't book it. And when you're trying to build that relationship, and booking that annual recurring revenue by year end is really important for them because it flows. So just to sort of play devil's advocate on that, I know there's a way, and there are different ways,
There should
right,
be a way,
to cover that.
we don't care.
And that's what we need to
We
find.
don't care about your booking at the end of the year. We also have a budget cycle, right? Like usually by this time, my budget for next year's done. Like mine's not yet, but usually by this time, it should be done. So if you're telling me, well, it's November 30th and we need to close, because that doesn't work necessarily for me. So then, you know what? Let's push this to January 1. It'll be the next year. We'll have our statement of work, and you'll have all year to get that work done. I mean, it's just things that I think the KM&I team don't consider now that we really should, because I think a lot of these agreements, a lot of the terms that you're agreeing to, like we watch the pilot, we talk to the lawyers, we see what the use cases are going to be, but then the contracting piece of it, the negotiation of the terms, the budgeting, we really don't think, and I feel like we really should. I think, the profession would be elevated if we did that. And we've had a lot of success with statements of work, but again, where they fell in the calendar year was really important.
Thank you. This is super interesting. So I'm Gabriel, Atlas by Clear People. Just a couple of comments, maybe to Josh's point there on ARR. So absolutely, I think for most software vendors here, ARR is what counts. I think what's really important, when building that trust and the partnership, is also around how does your model work as a vendor, right? And we have learned over time a number of things, and having the ability to flex a bit with how the firms operate is been successful for us. So for instance, to your point before, we have signed up to deals where we don't book it as full AR yet. We recognize it goes into another bucket until the point where it's been proven. Let's call it a pilot, or we've promised something. We said we will deliver it within 6 months. And then at that point, when it comes over the second line, let's say, right, there's the first line, getting the pilot going, it goes over the second line, is proven, then we move it into real ARR, let's call it that. So it is completely possible, but I think it's really important to have those conversations up front, and maybe there's a funny catch-22 because you're building a relationship, but as part of building that relationship, I sort of need to know if we're going to go into a prenup, well, what money are you bringing with you? I'm bringing this into this prenup. What
Our
are you
feedback, whatever you build, because
Yeah.
we told you, that's adding to your product, right?
100%.
If
So I
I
think-
want it,
yeah.
Tanisha's going to want it, Phil's
100%.
going to want it, right? So,
100%.
I mean, the leverage model, and we'll talk about this in the next
Yeah.
phase of love. But that leverage piece of it,
Yeah.
really, you need to really consider, right? Like
100%.
we are the customer, we are always right.
Yes, 100%. So that's we have these conversations all the time, but it requires a trust to have been built. So there is a bit of catch-22 to that until that point where there's enough trust to have these completely frank and upfront discussions and the transparency. And we're very transparent around. We need to make money to live and to invest further into the product.
You must see my outline. You must see my outline.
Anyway, but I think there's some really good points, and thank you for sharing all this, by the way.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know how many people are going to work with me after this. But I need a break anyway. Okay. You've agreed, right, we've signed our nice little prenup there. Ding dong, it's time to get married. We're going down the aisle together, right? And what sustains, I don't know if I'm actually an expert to talk about this, but what sustains a loving marriage, right? I would say it's a number of things, but probably the most important, I do have to refer to my notes for these to remember what sustains a loving marriage, but it's things like attention, communication, transparency, right? So attention, we sign, we pay, it's wonderful, then we don't see you anymore. You ghost us completely. We're rolling stuff out, we need training, we need help, we need you. Where did you go, right? You don't enter into this kind of relationship where you're paying a lot of money to just have the vendor disappear on you, right? Again, for us, we're a very small team, right? So we're already moving on to the next. To get that adoption, change management really going, we really do rely on the vendor relationship. And I'll tell a nice story now. But one of the best vendor relationships that we had, the KM team didn't have to lift a finger. They came to us with the usage. They came to us where they saw that a user dropped off in using it. They notified us. They reached out to us about setting up trainings. They were so good about it up until and beyond signing the contract, right? Because they want to ensure that we are going to continue using the product going forward. It's one thing to have recurring revenue for one. You want recurring, right? So how do you sustain that relationship going forward? So attention is the first thing. Communication, right, is the next thing. If you see a sudden drop in usage, let us know. The sooner you let the KM team know that, we can come up with an adoption plan. We can figure out training. We can figure out who we need to hit. The idea and transparency too. If usage is low, yes, I understand it's an awkward conversation, and you run the risk of us saying it's not a good product or whatever. But chances are, we've vouched for you. We brought you in. We got you money from our firm. We want you to succeed. So let's come up with a plan. And please show us the usage. We know you have the usage. There's so many. I feel like a lot of the vendors. You must feel like I'm talking directly to you, but I swear you've all done this to me. So it's all of you that I'm talking to. But show us the usage. That is really critical for us. First of all, we are the knowledge management team, right? When we see how people are using that product, that gives us innovative ideas to build things for our firm. So you help us out in that way. But also, if we have usage that we can really look at, that bodes really well for you for renewal. If we can't see how anybody's using the tool, or if we have to call around to 40 different people to understand who likes it, nobody wants to renew something like that. So, it's. You have something to say, Joshua? No. keep ranting. Yeah. But, I think it's really important. And I think that's how you sustain a long-term relationship, right? You have that trust, but you also have that open communication. And when issues arise, you talk about it before it gets to, oh, crap, it's 31 days before we have to give them notice of cancellation. Is it going to fit in the budget? We need to bring something to the powers that be to justify the additional expense carried over year for year, especially if you want to try to increase.
So on the usage, this is Janine Zito from Cleary. On the usage piece, I think it's really important to just understand the love language of your client. And because you say, tell me when people are dropping off. I want control of that. So my love language might be different than yours, Sarah. So give me the tools that I need to manage my product, and I will echo the point. There's some very, very large vendors that say, I don't have usage. We pay millions of dollars to these vendors, and they can't tell us usage.
Yeah.
And that's a problem, right? So I think it's on the marriage part, really understanding your particular client, how they work internally, what their needs are, and be able to kind of negotiate or track that, because we might be different in the way that we have our team set up or what our interests are.
I agree. I love that. And so, you should have those discussions beforehand, and you should put it in writing. It really should be in writing, right? Because like we talked about before, you can make all the promises in the world. Nobody gives a crap about what you promised. Once that check hits, right? Like, put it in writing. And there's, look, there's been tons of vendors where I'm like, hey, didn't we talk about, and they're like, no, we never talked about that. And I'm like, what? But you sure? Because like, I'm meeting with this partner every other week, and he keeps telling me, I told him that you said that we would, and so like, put it in writing. I mean, we're law firms, damn it. Like,
So I think
we should have it in writing.
I think there's a good tip here for everyone who's negotiating, and also when you're speaking to your vendors. A lot of your vendors have people in customer success roles, client success departments, and many of those vendors are probably the ones that piss you off the most because you never hear from them, you don't get it. Like, customer success in a lot of vendors is actually, this firm is about to leave us. They're threatening to cancel the renewal contract. Go and see what they need. Whereas what you really need to do is to establish from the outset what that ongoing relationship's going to be. And they do a lot of times have people and have the infrastructure, but for some reason they're not having that conversation with you. It's almost like this. It's this willful blindness. If I don't know things are going badly, I don't need to report on it. I don't need to worry about it. And then the shit hits the fan at renewal time, and it's always too late.
Yeah. Well, and look, we're not completely innocent in all of this, right? I mean, there really needs to be a schedule of times that you're going to speak, and it can't be, right before the renewal time, right? Like, we've tried to now implement where, 6 months before, we're already talking about what do we have to look at for renewal? What are we considering? What do we need to ask them for? How long do we have to cancel beforehand? What kind of usage stats do we need? So we're trying to do that internally. But it would really help and benefit us if the vendors can do that same thing. And I think a lot of the bigger vendors have recognized, listen, we get down to the 11th hour and everybody's freaking stressed about this renewal and it needs to be done and everyone's under pressure. So let's start. We know it's going to take you X number of weeks or months. Let's start it early. But that really needs to be, just the schedule of what are the times that we need to touch base when we're talking about our renewals, when we're talking about money owed, when we're talking about changes, et cetera.
Sorry, that schedule is also really important for everyone to understand, communicate from the beginning of the process to the end, because it's amazing the number of vendors that don't know how long it will take for the firm's GC to review the master services agreement that you're giving them, that's not in their paper, that is filled with stuff that they're going to find unacceptable. And then is the GC under what? I've been in firms, I'm not kidding you, where they'll say you can't get to our GC for 9 months.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's just real life, right? Their plates are full. And then if you got a GC plus a procurement department, you really have to work through that stuff. And if the vendor if the vendor asks the question, or if the client provides the information up front, that makes it, if it's going to take a year, it's going to take a year, right?
It has taken a year before, and believe me, no one's happy about that, but it depends on the size of the agreement. It depends on the terms. It depends, right, how sophisticated. It depends if the legal departments are willing to negotiate on certain points. But yeah, it can take a while, and so you should really prepare for that because, we are not going to budge and agree to something that we don't find acceptable. Like, you're just going to have to be on hold. And if you turn us off because we don't have a signed agreement, that might be forever.
I just want to step back to the success services because I think that's an interesting point here. Because there's actually, I mean, there's two sides to that coin, obviously. And just an observation that maybe initially when signing up to the vendor, there needs to be a realization of the investment made throughout in terms of these success, let's say monthly calls. So we have, for instance, monthly success calls with our clients. And maybe everybody needs to be more transparent around there is an investment in time on a monthly basis throughout the relationship so that it's not just right at the end, right at the renewal. We actually find that our success calls generally are used, but there is a higher than expected proportion that sort of don't show up at success calls, which is a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And we have them. They're set up every month, right?
Yeah, and we have that with a number of our vendors
Yeah.
too. And a lot of times we'll cancel
Talking
it,
about you,
right?
Sara.
Because there's not, if you have a 3-year agreement especially, right? You don't maybe need to talk all the time. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a great tip. All right, we have 3 minutes. This is the best part.
3 minutes. Go.
We've been married a long time. We're tired. You know, sometimes things don't work out. The big breakup's coming. But not how you think. For this day and age, right, the big breakup is the big A, acquisition. You have been purchased. We invested time. We had monthly calls. We gave you feedback. And now you're leaving us. You're being acquired by... And we don't know what's going to be of our relationship. However, will we deal with this? So, you know, I propose, especially now where, you know, I don't know if you've seen like the latest grids of however many, 6,000 new legal technology products on the market every day for everybody to look at. You know, we are in probably or entering a time of high acquisition pace for legal tech products. A lot of them that we've probably, even if you have a small agreement with them, it still causes disruption, right, to your users. But not only that, the terms that you've agreed to or not agreed to, right? And so I would say that the master service agreements, and again, probably a lot of people on the KM&I team don't really look at those agreements. You need to ensure that you have terms so that your IP is protected, right? So that if there's going to be some separation of whatever integrations you have done, you've worked out a plan for how that's going to happen, or if there's going to be a continuation of the services. I think that we don't really think about that too often because we're so used to dealing with bigger entities. But now that we're dealing with smaller entities on a more regular basis, it really is time to think about those terms and how to protect the firm.
Yeah, I think I agree with you 100%. I think it's important both for the smaller software companies and the big ones that buy them to understand the amount of anxiety. When a company, look, we can all point to companies that have been purchased over the last couple of years that we loved. And when that purchase announcement was made, our texts and emails amongst ourselves always light up with, how are they going to ruin this?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
How are they going to ruin this? I don't, like, the press release looks great, right? But we've all had those conversations, right? Oh, great. How long before I need to get off this platform? How are they going to ruin it? How are they going to roll it into a higher subscription rate product that I'm not going to be able to pass budget for? So it's
And
critical.
what happens to my data?
Yeah.
What happens to all of the stuff that we put into it, right? Where does that go? How do we get it out?
Yes, I agree. It's really, in terms of building that into the MSA, going through the relationship, and that also goes to just understanding the structure of the company, right? I mean, you really do need to understand how big are they? How are they being funded? Who's funding them? What's the track record of the VCs that are funding them? How many, if I'm making the business case to the firm, you kind of need a risk management strategy around an eventual acquisition, right? How often do the vendors stay? What are the lock-ins for the founders before they need to leave? All of that stuff, we didn't, when we had consolidated around a few big vendors, wasn't as big a concern. But now, everybody's felt it and experienced it. And Sara, you're absolutely right.
I love when you say that, Joshua. we would have a long relationship, Joshua. Well, I think we're at end. But I will just say, I think now too, right? Like we are managers of knowledge. A partner told me that early on in my decade-long career, he told me, I don't know, we were looking for some precedent or something like that, and we didn't have it, and he said, you guys just, you manage the knowledge, right? Like you don't necessarily have the knowledge. You manage the knowledge, and that was rude then, but now, now it's just, now the knowledge that we have is so valuable, right? The things that you know, the things that and there's a price for that, right? There's a cost for that, whether you're up presenting, whether you're giving vendor feedback, when do you do it? There is a lot of value in the knowledge that you bestow, and so I would just leave people with this thought of just, know the value of it, know who you're giving it to, and, use the tools that you have to best support your work and the firm. Look out for your group, so.
Sara, we all hope this was helpful to you.
I hope. I mean, I feel a lot better.
I hope.
I feel a lot
just
better.
give her a hug when she gets up.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Good job, Joshua.
God, sometimes my job is so easy, and this was one of those times.
Can I say something real quick?
Tanisha,
I just want to say thank you to Sara for sitting up there and representing all of us. And really, what could be a really difficult conversation was funny and lighthearted, and I think really helpful. And so thank you.
Woke you guys up after lunch, you see? Thank you guys. Thank you guys all for participating.
And thank you to the
struggle
vendors
is
in the
real.
room, for the vendors
Yes.
to listen.
Yes.
Like I said yesterday when we started, one of the biggest things that we want out of these events is for you to learn what we do, why we do it, what we need, and we appreciate, I know you got being around in this, but it's legit. You have to look at it from our perspectives too. Thank you.
We're in charge. Like in a relationship, you always have one that's in charge.
Yeah, no, that's true.